We have Republicans who are rooting for Russia, and that makes it very hard for President Biden to get the whole country to go along when Donald Trump, Mike Pompeo, and Tucker Carlson are rooting for Russians, and that's being replayed on Russia TV to rally Russians for this cause.
You know, it's such an awful thing to say. We hesitated even to play that. It's very common. You hear it every day. The question is, why are they saying that? It doesn't make sense, but it makes political sense. It is an effort to cover their own tracks. Our foreign policy establishment failed to constrain Vladimir Putin. To bring you back to ancient history, like a week ago, they were telling us that sanctions and arming the Ukrainian military would prevent a Russian invasion. Now, they were wrong about that. They've been wrong many times, most recently in Afghanistan. And in fact, now that we're casting blame, if there is any single American who deserves scorn and, yes, blame for the invasion of Ukraine, it would be Joe Biden. Of course, it was his job, self-described job, to prevent it. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. You got to hand it to the Biden people. They don't specialize in subtlety. You're not going to miss the point when they talk. And they've been talking a lot about foreign policy for months. The White House has told us that if we're real Americans, if we love this country and aren't traitors, quislings, then we will wholeheartedly support jumping with both feet into a highly complicated conflict in an obscure part of Eastern Europe where we have no national interests. Why? Because Ukraine's borders are sacred, unlike our own, and if we're good people, we'll recognize that and not ask any questions. So that's been their argument. Though you may notice it's not actually an argument. It doesn't even approach an argument. It is a lecture. It is delivered at high volume with their signature freshman year self-righteousness. How dare you? Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Since the day that Donald Trump became president, Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason. Many Americans have obeyed this directive. They now dutifully hate Vladimir Putin. Maybe you're one of them. Hating Putin has become the central purpose of America's foreign policy. It's the main thing that we talk about. Entire cable channels are now devoted to it. Very soon, that hatred of Vladimir Putin could bring the United States into a conflict in Eastern Europe. Before that happens, it might be worth asking yourself, since it is getting pretty serious, what is this really about? Why do I hate Putin so much? Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Has he shipped every middle-class job in my town to Russia? Did he manufacture a worldwide pandemic that wrecked my business and kept me indoors for 2 years? Is he teaching my children to embrace racial discrimination? Is he making fentanyl? Is he trying to snuff out Christianity? Does he eat dogs? These are fair questions, and the answer to all of them is no. Vladimir Putin didn't do any of that. So why does permanent Washington hate him so much? The point here is to defend democracy. Not that Ukraine is a democracy. It is not a democracy. Ukraine's president has arrested his main political opponent. He has shut down newspapers and television stations that have dared to criticize him. So in American terms, you would call Ukraine a tyranny. But Joe Biden likes Ukraine, so Putin bad, war good. So that was last night. Tonight, it's fair to note the obvious. The invasion of Ukraine is a humiliating defeat for Joe Biden. He's our leader. He staked this country's reputation, billions of dollars, and the full force of the U.S. government on preventing Vladimir Putin from invading Ukraine. Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine anyway. And America is diminished by that.
This is the kind of political analysis Russia's state-controlled television apparently likes. The main channel in Moscow putting together this montage of lines from a favorite anchor. Please show us Tucker Carlson, the host says. He's the man laying out all the complaints against President Biden, she explains. But it's his defense of Russia's threat against Ukraine the Kremlin-backed channel now wants to highlight.
Vladimir Putin does not want Belgium. He just wants to keep his western border secure. That's why he doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO. And that makes sense. Imagine how we would feel if Mexico and Canada became satellites of China.
It's essentially what the Kremlin says, so no surprise, the studio guests agree. Excellent performance, exclaims this editor of a Russian national defense journal. We can only have solidarity with this view. he says.
The day that Donald Trump became president, Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason. Many Americans have obeyed this directive. They now dutifully hate Vladimir Putin. Maybe you're one of them. Hating Putin has become the central purpose of America's foreign policy. It's the main thing that we talk about. Entire cable channels are now devoted to it. Very soon, that hatred of Vladimir Putin could bring the United States into a conflict in Eastern Europe.
On Russian state TV, Western media are getting ridiculed. Like it or not, they think independent journalists are propagandists for the US government, creating a provocation for war.
You have no idea what's happening in our mind. You have no idea about our history. You have no idea what Russia is about. You have no idea what Ukraine is about our mutual history, why we have a problem.
Vladimir Solovyov hosts his own show, proudly pushes the Kremlin's views, and Fox anchor Tucker Carlson's.
He's a nice guy, he's funny, has his own point of view. He hates Biden, he likes Trump, so what?
And we start today with breaking news.
No irony that in Russia, unlike America, criticizing the president is off limits, and never more so than now. In the past year, independent media here have been almost completely crushed.
It's a feeling of tense, and it's all the time. You can never be sure that tomorrow you will be you will be all right. You can never be sure that tomorrow your TV station will still be alive.
Yekaterina Kodrakadze is an anchor at TV Rain, one of Russia's last independent stations. It is designated a foreign agent, Kafkaesque Kremlin law that can snuff it out. She is all too familiar with state TV's manipulations, how they use Western media and play Carlson against his broadcast colleagues.
They just like that there is a person who says, are we going to fight Russia because of this corrupted Eastern European country that we even cannot find on the map? So as soon as he says something that is not in this, direction that they need, he's not going to be a friend anymore.
In Russia's propaganda war, truth doesn't matter. What counts is stopping a war they are convinced America is fomenting.
So at this point, NATO exists primarily to torment Vladimir Putin, who would
at home, facing accusations of being a pro-Putin stooge, Carlson has defended some of his pro-Russia comments and said he is not a Russian agent. So will he lose his war-stopping value in Russia?
Come on, this poor guy from Fox News. Well, I like the idea of him being Russian spy, colonel of Russian GRU services.
But in the meantime, you should be very aware that there are partisan forces trying to use the war in Ukraine to accomplish political objectives here domestically and gain more power for themselves. It's not just about voting rights or shutting down Fox News. It's about shutting you up personally, your ability to express yourself. And if you doubt that, you should know that Senator Mark Warner of Virginia just wrote a letter to his donors, the tech monopolies, demanding that they, quote, restrict the spread of Russian propaganda. He did not define the term Russian propaganda, and as a show that has been accused of disseminating it repeatedly, we can tell you we're a little sensitive on the topic, and you should be too. Again, this is moral blackmail. No one in America takes pride at the sight, feels anything but revulsion at the sight of Russian troops within Ukraine. It's wrong. It's destabilizing to the world. It is, in fact, against our values. But how we respond is the question.